Whether you're just getting to know her, or you've been dating a while, or you're in a committed relationship, there are subtle signs you might be an abused man and potentially dating an emotionally damaged woman. If you feel like you are constantly walking on eggshells, or second guessing or doubting yourself, or feel like you have to ask her permission to do or say just about anything, then you are in the right place, my friend. Because something's gotta give. If you don't do something about it, it's only going to get worse. And next thing you know, you're slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars or you're defending yourself in court, or worse. Welcome to Just the Tip Tuesday. Now, if you're really into the girl, or would like to be, and you are Googling signs you're an abused man, that is actually sign number one, you might be an abused man. So, number one, your gut instinct has brought you here. A lot of times, men don't believe or trust in their gut instinct, but you have intuition, and your intuition is telling you something's got to change, whether it's something about you or something about her. You know it's not healthy for you. Now stick with me, because I'm going to give you a solution to save you from a potentially emotionally damaged woman you're getting to know or are already with. And please keep in mind, these points are also things that you want to make sure you're not doing to your partner, because that means that something's not quite right on your end. So just pay attention, make sure that you're not doing these things, and definitely make sure that she's not doing these things. Okay, number two, gaslighting. If you fight a lot and those fights end up leading her to gaslighting you, that's a potential sign you might be an abused man. Now, what is gaslighting? Well, it's basically when she switches up the truth to make you feel like the crazy one. Example, she says she wants to go to the farmer's market on Saturday. It's really important to her that you show up and be there with her. You're like, okay, I can do that. But let's say on the day of the farmer's market, you're really tired from working a lot of OT, and you end up getting in a fender bender on your way there. Instead of being understanding and caring about your well-being, she freaks out because you didn't make it there and you weren't taking care of yourself. But when you say, I was trying because you said it was important, she'll say, I never said it was important, or it's not that important, or your health is more important. But that wasn't her first instinct, right? Her first instinct was, you screwed up, I suffered because of it. Selfish. If her first instinct was, are you okay? That's a good sign. If her first instinct is selfish, not a good sign, especially if she turns her logic around into you being the bad guy. Okay, so you're probably already like, uh-oh. But remember, we're all a little bit damaged. We've all had baggage, and we weren't taught how to do relationships when we were in school. So just because there's a flag doesn't mean you're going to ditch and run. I'm going to give you a solution for these, so just stick with me. Next one, number three, social control. So if she tries to control who you spend your time with, that's a subtle sign you might be an abused man, especially if you find yourself not spending time with friends and family that you used to because she doesn't think they're good for you, even if that's not true. She's trying to control who you spend your time with, and maybe even limit who you're spending your time with, so you'll have to rely on her more and more, and she's isolating you from other people. Not good, which is very similar to number four, manipulation tactics. If you feel like you can't have a difficult conversation with her because she lies, denies, or manipulates, that might be a subtle sign that you're an abused man. Example, you want to talk to her about her not constantly trash talking your family, who are actually good-hearted folk who are just looking out for your best interests. But when you try to bring it up, she says, I love your mom. I just don't like her interfering in her life, which is actually a lie. Or, I never said I don't like them. deny and lie, or I just want what's best for you, babe. Why do you always have to turn it around and make me the bad guy? Lie, deny, and manipulate. Which brings us to 5. Manipulation galore. If she doesn't trust you, even though you've done nothing to make her feel that way, 1, that means she might be an emotionally damaged woman. Again, we all have baggage, but that can lead to her using manipulation tactics on you that are not healthy. No manipulation tactics are healthy, just to be clear. And remember, just because it's a red flag doesn't necessarily mean run, but it does mean something has to change. But the more red flags there are, and the less open to changing she is, or you are, then yes, you might have to run. Because even though we've all had traumatic experiences in our life, or crappy childhoods, or things that have gone wrong that have affected how we deal with relationships, doesn't mean that we should accept bad behavior. So explaining doesn't mean condoning. Just because there's a reason for the emotional damage doesn't mean accepting bad behavior is what you should do. Definitely not. Example, you've done nothing wrong, like nothing. You are like saintly, and she accuses you of cheating. Now, this has to come from a place of insecurity within her, because you haven't done anything to give her a reason to think that. So she makes you show her your phone at random times so she can check up on you. Or she wants to know where you are at when you're not with her. Or she's messaging you 1,000 times a night and you get in trouble if you don't reply back right away. That's a subtle sign you could be an abused man. Key point. You are not responsible for paying the debts of her past. Now, that's not to say you can't help each other unpack and deal with your baggage, but it means that you're not responsible for her entire suitcase of trauma, which is why you need to have standards, expectations, boundaries, and the willingness to follow through on the consequences if those boundaries are disrespected. You do it in a loving way, but you must do it. Which brings us to number 6, boundaries and erratic behavior. She ignores or disrespects your boundaries and then flies off the handle or freaks out, overreacts when you bring it up in a kind, loving, and respectful way. Just the tip. The difference between an ultimatum and a boundary is in the delivery. Is it coming from a place of love and self-love, both for you and for her? Or is it coming from a place of frustration, reaction, and selfishness? If her reactions exceed what is reasonable for the crime, and everything you do is a crime, that's a subtle sign you might be an abused man. And if you thought that one was bad, number 7 could be worse because there's no tangible evidence. Number 7, criticism and contempt. There is a huge difference between loving, constructive feedback and character assassination. Hint: feedback focuses on behavior. Criticism focuses on the person. Contempt expresses superiority over you. If she makes disparaging comments about you as a person, perhaps even under the guise of helping you, or if she spins your wins into losses by telling you things that you could have done a little better, even though you've done something just amazing that you're really proud of, she tries to take that away from you. She may have no respect left for you, and she'll treat you with contempt. Contempt isn't just in words, it's in body language. If she rolls her eyes at you, that's a good sign or a bad sign. That's a sign of contempt. For example, you tell her you finally got that promotion you were looking for, and she says, "It's about time. You should have applied for it a long time ago." Ooh, that's not a teammate. That's not a teammate. Okay, now what can you do about this? The first thing you need to know about ending up as an abused person, man or woman, is we teach people how to treat us. If you've watched my videos for a while, you've heard me say that many times. And it's way more difficult to turn a ship around once it's out of the harbor. In other words, once a habit of treating you is established, it's far more difficult to have that person change the habit of treating you that way. So you got to nip it in the bud early on. Standards, boundaries, following through on consequences, lovingly, self-love, and lovingly towards the other person. You can set a boundary without yelling, without losing your cool, without needing to feel like the aggressor. It's not about alpha dominance, I beat you down with words or in any other way, but standing firm in your frame as a man who loves himself and respects himself and won't put up with what you shouldn't. Because if you don't respect yourself, she won't respect you. Women mirror your feelings about you. Two things will happen. If you let her get away with it without nipping it in the bud, it could be she's not actually as damaged as you might think she is. She's just been testing you to see where the backbone is. She doesn't do this consciously. You can watch my videos on shit tests to learn more about that. Or she could be damaged, but it's within the framework of being able to reel in the bad behavior by dealing with it, just like a toddler, right? I know whenever we're triggered, men or women, just women tend to get triggered more easily because of neurological differences. We end up acting like toddlers. That's where we go. So what do? You gotta train the person how to treat you. So you need to be able to respect yourself enough to overtly express your standards, expectations, boundaries, and consequences early on if it doesn't come up, if it's something very, very important to you, or as situations arise that you realize are very, very important to you, or even a little bit important. Okay, so you might be wondering like, oh my gosh, I've let this go for way too long, or this is a pattern within myself. I attract women who are not good to me because I don't feel worthy, or because I think that's all I can get, or because I think that's what I deserve, or because it feels familiar from childhood. There is hope. If it gets to the point of contempt, that's a difficult ship to turn around. But all the rest of these things have the potential to be changed. Ignoring bad behavior teaches other people what they can get away with, just like a toddler. And not ignoring bad behavior teaches people what they can't get away with. If you struggle to be able to speak up for yourself, to have the voice maybe you didn't have as a child, I strongly encourage you to consider therapy, a counselor, a coach. And if that's something that you do want to do, then there's a wonderful online option that allows you to have complete privacy, and you can access, professional therapists from anywhere in the world that there's a Wi-Fi. If you go to the link somewhere in the comments, wherever it is, then you will get a discount by using my link. And then you also support my channel. So thank you. But wherever you decide to get help, you definitely need to get help if you're having a difficult time having the courage to change the patterns you engage in that are not serving you by attracting or keeping women that are abusive to you. You can only control your behavior. Once you start standing up for yourself, you'll discover the ones that are willing to work through stuff because you're worth it and they're not so damaged that they can't, or if they truly are a throwback. It's okay to throw back a throwback. Remember, love is not enough. Attraction is not enough. Chemistry is not enough to have a long-term, healthy, happy relationship. If you allow her or continue to allow her to treat you disrespectfully, it shows you don't love and respect yourself. So again, if you are struggling within yourself or in your relationship, I encourage you to talk to a professional therapist or a relationship coach, and you'll find both of those at the link in the comments. Thanks for being here. Big hug. God bless.